Hey, everybody. Ready to tackle something I think we all deal with pretty much every day.
Oh, yeah, stress.
Stress. Who doesn't have that kind of love-hate relationship with it, you know?
Right.
So we're diving deep today into a listener request. A lot of you have been asking for ways to better understand stress and how to manage it.
Yeah, and I have to say, the approaches we found in all these sources are really fascinating.
Really fascinating.
We're talking rewiring your thoughts,
Yeah.
tapping into like those unconscious triggers you don't even know are there.
Exactly. It's like a whole toolkit for your mind, right?
It is.
We're talking cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, positive psychology,
Yeah.
Learning how to actually deal with stress once you know where it's coming from.
It's really about finding what works for you. There's no one size fits all.
Exactly. And there are so many different ways to approach it. So let's start with a method that's really gained a lot of popularity, and that is cognitive behavioral therapy. We all know it as CBT. I've heard so much about it. I've heard it's about changing your thought patterns.
Yeah.
But I really want to get a clearer picture of how that actually works.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, okay, so imagine you're stuck in traffic. You're already running late for a meeting. Most people, their stress levels would be through the roof.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But CBT says it's not actually the traffic jam itself that's causing the stress.
Okay.
It's your thoughts about it.
Oh, so it's not the external event, but our reaction to it, our internal reaction to it.
Exactly.
That's so interesting because it really puts the power back in our hands.
Right.
But how do we actually go about changing those thoughts?
Right. So that's where the techniques like cognitive reframing come in.
Okay.
So let's say the thought is, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so late. My boss is going to think I'm totally irresponsible.
Yeah.
So CBT helps you to challenge that thought.
Right.
Like, is that really true? Have I always been perceived as irresponsible? Maybe there's a valid reason for this delay.
So you're not like denying the situation.
Right.
You're just choosing to view it maybe through a different lens.
Exactly.
One that's less
A
stress-inducing.
more balanced perspective.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference in how you feel about it.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it doesn't mean ignoring real problems.
Right.
But it does mean not letting your thoughts kind of run wild and create
Yeah.
necessary stress.
Choosing to focus on what you can control,
Right.
which is your thoughts,
Yeah,
rather than what you can't, like a traffic jam.
precisely. And the more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes.
Okay, so CBT is all about, rewiring those thought patterns. But what about mindfulness and meditation?
Yes.
Those are everywhere these days. Are they more than just trendy buzzwords?
Well, mindfulness is about being present in the moment without judgment. It's like hitting the pause button on that constant mental chatter, which often leads to a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So instead of dwelling on the past
Right.
or worrying about the future, you're just fully experiencing the present moment.
I can see how that would be calming,
Yeah.
but it also sounds a little elusive.
It can be. That's why we practice.
Okay.
And that's where meditation comes in.
Oh, okay.
It's a practice that helps you cultivate mindfulness.
Got it.
There are lots of different types, but a simple one is focusing on your breath.
Okay. I think we should try it. I bet our listeners could use a little mindful moment right now, too.
Absolutely.
So why don't you walk us through that?
Okay, so just get comfortable, close your eyes if you like, and just notice the natural rhythm of your breath. Don't try to change it, just observe.
Okay.
As you inhale, feel the air filling your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
As you exhale, notice how your body relaxes.
Yeah. Even just those few breaths,
Yeah.
I feel a shift. It's like a mental reset button.
It's amazing how powerful something so simple can be, right?
Yeah.
Like a mini vacation from stress.
Okay. So we've talked about, changing our thoughts with CBT and becoming more present with mindfulness. What other approaches can help us manage this stress monster?
Well, let's shift gears to something that might sound a little counterintuitive when you're feeling stressed.
Okay.
Positive psychology.
Positive psychology.
Yeah,
When I'm stressed, the last thing I'm thinking about is focusing on the positive.
I get that.
So how does this work?
It's not about denying the negative, but it's about cultivating a more balanced perspective.
Okay.
Imagine it like building a mental immune system against stress.
Ooh, I like that, a mental immune system.
Yeah.
So what are some of the building blocks for building this mental resilience?
Well, one very powerful tool is gratitude. When you focus on what you're grateful for, even the small things,
Okay.
it shifts your attention away from what's stressing you out. It's like shining a light on the good stuff, even when things feel tough.
So even if I'm facing a mountain of deadlines, I should be thinking about my comfy chair or the delicious coffee I had this morning.
Yes. It might sound silly, but those little moments of appreciation
Okay.
can actually rewire your brain to be more optimistic and resilient. Wow.
And that can make a world of difference in how you handle stress. It's not about ignoring the deadlines, but it's about not letting them consume your entire mental space.
That's a great point. Okay, so we've got CBT, mindfulness, and now this idea of positive psychology. What if someone's stress feels a little bit deeper, like it's coming from somewhere they can't quite pinpoint?
That's where the psychodynamic approach comes in.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
It explores how unconscious thoughts and feelings, often rooted in past experiences, can influence our reactions in the present.
So it's like our past is playing a role in how we're experiencing stress today, even if we're not consciously aware of it.
Exactly.
Can you give us an example? I'm really curious about this.
Sure. Let's say someone had a parent who was constantly critical of their work no matter how hard they tried. As an adult, that person might find themselves getting extremely anxious about work presentations,
Okay.
even if their current boss is super supportive.
It's like that early experience created a pattern of associating work with criticism, even if it's not accurate anymore.
Wow. So these unconscious patterns are running in the background, influencing how we react to things.
Exactly.
And while we can't change our past,
Right.
understanding these patterns can help us manage our stress responses more effectively.
It's like shining a light on those unconscious triggers so they don't have so much power over us.
That's powerful stuff.
Right.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from CBT to mindfulness to positive psychology and this really intriguing psychodynamic approach. But knowing the why behind stress is only part of the equation. What about the how? What practical tools and solutions can our listeners start using today to actually manage their stress?
Well, you're absolutely right. Understanding is key, but it's the practical tools that really make a difference. And luckily for us, there are so many out there.
Okay, so let's dive into that toolbox.
Yeah.
What are some techniques that our listeners can start using right now to dial down the stress?
Well, we already touched on breathing exercises with mindfulness, but let's go a little deeper. Have you ever heard of box breathing?
Box breathing. That sounds intriguingly geometric.
It is. It's a technique that's actually used by Navy SEALs to stay calm under pressure.
Wow.
Basically, you visualize a box and each side represents a step. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4. Exhale for 4, hold for 4.
Okay.
It's incredibly effective for regulating your nervous system.
Wow. If it works for Navy SEALs, I'm definitely on board. I mean, who wouldn't want that kind of calmness in the face of, stressful situations? But what about those times when stress just makes you feel completely scattered?
Yeah.
Like you can't even focus on breathing, let alone a box.
That's where time management comes in.
Okay.
It's not just about productivity. It's about reducing stress by creating a sense of order and control.
Oh, tell me about it. My to-do list sometimes feels like it's multiplying by the minute. Any tips for taming the to-do monster?
One strategy is the Eisenhower matrix. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever successfully implemented it.
It's great. You divide your tasks into 4 quadrants. Urgent and important.
Okay.
Important but not urgent. Urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important.
Okay, so it's about prioritizing what truly needs our attention.
Exactly.
And letting go of the rest.
And don't be afraid to delegate or say no to things that fall into those less important categories. It's about protecting your time and energy.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to focus on what really matters.
Yeah.
But what about like those really big, overwhelming projects? The ones that make you want to just like crawl back into bed and hide?
Break them down. Instead of focusing on this huge end goal, create smaller, manageable steps.
Yep.
This not only makes the task less daunting, but it also gives you a sense of accomplishment as you check things off.
That's a great reminder. It's so easy to get lost in the enormity of a task and forget about the power of those small wins.
Right.
Okay, so we've got breathing time management. What other practical tips can help us manage stress?
Don't underestimate the power of lifestyle choices.
Okay.
Sleep, exercise, and nutrition play a huge role in your overall well-being.
Oh, yeah.
And your ability to handle stress.
Okay, but let's be real. When you're stressed, those are often the first things to go. You're up late, worrying, reaching for the comfort food, skipping the gym. It's like a vicious cycle.
It definitely can be. But even small changes can make a big difference. Can you commit to a 20-minute walk a few times a week? Or swapping that sugary snack for a piece of fruit and some nuts?
Those are definitely doable.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I do prioritize those things,
Yeah.
I feel a million times better mentally and physically.
Absolutely.
Speaking of feeling better, what about the role of social connection?
Huge.
Sometimes, just talking to a friend can really help me kind of de-stress.
Absolutely. Connecting with loved ones, whether it's a heart-to-heart conversation or just sharing a laugh, can be incredibly therapeutic. It reminds you that you're not alone, and it helps release those feel-good hormones.
Yeah, it's like an instant mood booster. Okay, we've talked about a lot of great strategies here, but I know there are also a lot of misconceptions about stress out there. Should we do a little myth busting?
I'm all for it.
Okay.
One common myth is that all stress is bad.
Okay.
But actually, some stress can be positive and even motivating.
Really? How can stress be a good thing? I mean, we're supposed to think of it as the enemy, right?
Right, but think about the excitement you feel before a big presentation
Okay.
or a performance. That's a form of stress.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But it's what pushes us to prepare and do our best. It's that edge that helps us excel.
So it's about that sweet spot, the right amount of stress that actually enhances performance. That's fascinating. What other myths do we need to debunk?
Another big one is that only weak people get stressed.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
The truth is, stress is a normal human response. In fact, some of the most successful people experience very high levels of stress. The key is not avoiding stress, but developing healthy ways to cope with it.
That's so important. It's like we need to normalize the conversation around stress and mental health.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, everyone experiences stress at some point in their life.
Exactly. It's part of being human.
Yeah.
And seeking help when you need it is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. From understanding different psychological approaches to practical tips for managing stress and even busting those pesky myths. But I think there's one more crucial piece to this puzzle.
Oh.
Do tell. I'm all ears for anything that can help us win the battle against stress.
Self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
Yeah. Treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding that you would offer a friend.
Oh. So instead of beating ourselves up when we're feeling stressed, we should be offering ourselves, support and encouragement.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that stress is a normal part of life, and we all struggle with it sometimes. It's not a sign of weakness or failure.
I love that. It's like giving yourself permission to be human, to have those ups and downs.
Right. And when you approach stress with self-compassion, you're much more likely to engage in healthy coping mechanisms instead of turning to, unhealthy habits.
That makes so much sense. It's like creating a positive feedback loop,
Yeah.
where self-compassion leads to healthier choices, which then in turn lead to less stress.
Exactly.
It's brilliant.
It's a journey. It's not a destination.
Right.
And some days will be harder than others,
Yeah.
The key is to keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing that self-compassion muscle.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into stress management, what's the one thing you'd like our listeners to take away from this?
You have more power than you think. You are not at the mercy of your stress. By understanding the psychology behind it, developing healthy coping mechanisms, and cultivating self-compassion, you can reclaim a sense of calm and balance in your life.
Beautifully said. And if I can just add one more thought, don't be afraid to ask for help. Whether it's reaching out to a friend, a therapist, or exploring some of the amazing resources that we've talked about today, seeking support is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Couldn't agree more. We're all in this together. And as we close, I'd like to leave our listener with a little challenge. For the next week, try incorporating just one of the techniques we discussed today into your daily routine, and notice how it makes you feel.
I love that challenge. It's a great way to put all this knowledge into action. And remember, even small steps can lead to big shifts in how you experience and manage stress.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into this topic with you.
It really has.
And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We hope you feel empowered to navigate those inevitable ups and downs of life with a little more ease and resilience.
Until next time, take care, be kind to yourselves, and remember, you've got this.